for joining in. Okay, so today's welcome to the BEwell Hub Experience. This is this weekly platform, safe space that I put together to bring people like experts like Thierry today. And we're going to talk about personal and professional development, talking a bit of expertise, whoever's doing the actual, just teaching or coaching, the expertise, and also sharing our journey. We're coaches, we want to grow. And so we're here, we're going to have an interaction hour together. Today's talk is about the 5 pillars, the 5 pillars of brain health. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that we already know, but it's always updating our information. We're going to be talking about nutrition, sleep, novelty, exercise, social connections, and anything else, and even nature. I think Thierry also said one of the 6th pillar is nature. So who is Thierry Di Raffaele, who's got an Italian surname? So let me just give you a little bit of background. He helps executives optimize brain performance with simple, sustainable habits, building thriving and happier lives, transformative coach, neuroscience, microbiome health, cognitive decline prevention. This is what he does.
Yeah, that's my LinkedIn.
So let's give some space, obviously, to Thierry, because he's let's say the expert on this field. We'll have it's an open session. It's not a webinar. It's a meeting. So whenever you feel free, you've got a question, something's not really clear, just put your thumbs up, or just I don't know, just put a question in the chat, and we'll take it from there. So Thierry, you want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
What projects you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Thierry. I'm Swiss. I'm from Geneva. I live in London since about 9 years. I used to be a portfolio manager for a big bank. I've been an investment manager as well for nearly 20 years. I used to have a family office in Geneva for some years, and then I moved to London for love. And my life has changed a lot since then. Me and my wife went through a health journey for the last 5 years that has been mind-blowing and has changed the course of our lives, because my wife has also taken some courses, and I've totally changed directions following this. I'm not going to get into too much into details, but yeah, we discovered something with our son that didn't make any sense, and then one thing led to the other. We totally changed professional course for me, and I have done the IIN that's been founded by Mr. Roventhal and Deepak Chopra.
INN stands for what?
For Integrative Nutrition Institute of Integrative Nutrition. So it's an holistic view of your body, where everything is centered around basically what you eat.
So is this like, as we're gonna have a conversation, it's an open conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Mariam, Debbie. So just just feel free to just sort of develop the conversation. So you're working with this now, right, Thierry?
Absolutely, because brain health is not just the brain. So I have also done the Brain Academy to be a certified brain coach, and I'm very, very interested in the gut-brain axis. So for me, it's a central point of what I do. And I wanted to start this by giving you some facts, because the brain is an amazing organ. And I think, sadly, people don't realize how amazing they are. So we know it's amazing, but we don't know the scale of what we have in between our ears. It's so small when you think about it. It's 3% of our body weight. It uses 20% of all the energy we consume. So already there, you know that something is very special. I wrote it some down. There's not a lot. There's hundreds of facts, but I wrote in maybe the 6 or 7 most important ones that are actually going to blow your mind. The first one is the brain is composed of in between 80 to 100 billion cells. The brain cells are called neurons, right? Each of those cells can connect with up to 10,000 other neurons. And in one part of the brain called the cerebellum, which is the base of movement and stability and posture, those cells can connect up to 100,000, have up to 100,000 connections with other cells, which is absolutely mind-blowing. When you do this and you calculate how many connections your brain can actually create, it's more connection in our head than there is stars in the universe. And it's not 2 or 3 times more. It's a 4-digit multiplier. It's amazing.
Okay. So it is. The numbers are astronomical, obviously. The numbers
absolutely astronomical. And let me give you three more things, and then I'll take all the questions.
Okay.
The first one is brain cannot feel pain. So when you have a migraine is actually not your brain developing pain, because brain has no pain receptors. It's mostly composed of water. 77 to 80% of your brain is water. And this is why you hear all the time, you need to drink enough, blah, blah, blah. Drinking enough support brain health, obviously. Drinking water, we mean, not beer, because we talked a lot about beer just before. And the last thing is brain is composed of 60% fat. So fat is a very important thing that you need to have in your diet, because your brain is mostly composed of it. So any question here on the facts?
Well, a question is, all those numbers that you gave us before, what does that mean? Matthew, just let me ask and then we'll take Matthew's question as well. What does that mean, really, having all those connections and neurons, and what does it mean?
It's the complexity. So today we don't understand fully how everything works. Neuroscience is still a science that is quite at its beginning. We know the possibilities are endless, but we don't understand everything. So every day we learn new things about our brain. We learn new things about how connections are established and how they work. We know the basic, but there is so much more. It's a field that is in full development. And just to give you an example of this, is 20 years ago, we believed, and I've grown with this belief, that you are born with a brain, and then your brain is growing until you're 18, and from the age of 18 you start losing neurons until you die. Now we know this is absolutely not true. It doesn't work like this, but this is the belief with a lot of people that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s still believe that is like this. But today we know there's 2 very important words for the brain. One is neuroplasticity, which is how the brain can restructure itself, and neurogenesis, which is the ability of the brain to create new neurons. There is a big, even within scientists, a lot of scientists don't believe that neurogenesis exists. That you can actually create and grow neurons, but some part of your brain can do it.
So Matthew's got his hand up, Thierry. Let's take Matthew.
Yes, please.
Matthew?
I'm being a patient coach, listening.
Bravo.
I think it's more of maybe a comment or input rather than a question as such, but I'm just thinking about Alzheimer's and things like that. And you mentioned that the whole space of the brain is relatively new from the new stuff that you're coming across, but I'm just wondering, is there a way potentially of measuring the negative and positive effects of smiling, frowning, frying, you know, getting bullied, getting given out to, just the usual shit that we go through in life, and how different our lives could be if it's different in a more positive way. Because we all know that positivity feeds energy and negativity drains energy. So it's just something I was thinking about from the point of view of living better.
I think it's an excellent question. Oh, sorry, you didn't finish. I thought you were
Living better and removing toxicity from your life, or not inviting it in, to be aware of it, and also not to sweat the small stuff, like getting upset if somebody slows down in front of you. If you let somebody out in front of you and they don't wave at you, who gives a shit? You know, it doesn't really matter. It's a meaningless waste of negative energy when there's so much other stuff that you have to try and fix.
A question there, Matthew, is how much energy do you think? I mean, we were saying 20% of our energy is consumed by the brain, and all of these little things that matter, they don't matter. How much energy does that take away from us?
Is it a question for Matthew or for me?
Oh,
I'm not the neuroscientist here.
Oh, I'm not a neuroscientist.
I
want
know
to
my
make this
brain
point
is
clear.
up here.
Yeah,
and the
that's
cerebellum
pretty
is
much
here.
good. That's good.
That's it.
I can answer too. I can from what I know. So the first thing I would say to Matthew is, first, you're absolutely right. We use there is two things at play. You use the word toxicity. There is I think you meant toxic, if I heard you correctly, is toxicity through what happens to us, through our environment, other people, right?
Yeah, toxic people. Yeah.
Toxic people, annoying people, and stuff like this. So it's proven scientifically that toxic people, that living in an environment with toxic people will reduce your neuroplasticity and will reduce your neurogenesis. So basically, it will shrink your brain. And it's proven scientifically through a brain scan. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do around there, obviously, getting rid, changing of.
If you eliminate toxicity from your life, you can drink more beer because there's more capacity to lose brain cells through the beer.
So alcohol doesn't kill brain cells. So this is another myth you can hear a lot on social media, but alcohol doesn't kill brain cells. Alcohol destroy the receptors in the synaptic gap in between neurons. But that's another story. Where that's taking the discussion a little bit too into the details, which I think we should avoid here, because we should keep the big picture in sight. But there is also another very important thing that you can do for your brain when you talk about toxicity, is the toxicity of your environment, the physical polluant, all the toxin, the pesticides that you find in your food, and so on, so on, so on. I posted something on LinkedIn today if you want to have a look later on. And it's those little things who actually go into your body and disrupt a lot of stuff. I think Gary has a question for me a little bit later about how nutrition impacts brain health, and we can discuss more about this later on in today. So toxicity is also something that is a big problem for our brain.
Yeah, Mariam's got a question. Thierry, just to say, remember, I got your message saying that you're gonna have to jump off a little bit earlier.
Yeah, a little bit earlier. Yeah, sorry, because my son needs to pick up.
No, it's earlier than scheduled, because we normally finish on the hour. But since you're going to be finishing quarters to the hour, let's keep that in mind as you go through.
Okay.
So you don't just abruptly break off and everyone jumps off. So
okay, so what I propose to you, Gary, now is we talk about those 5 pillars, so we know what they are, and we can maybe discuss them. I think this is more important than going into the small stuff.
Okay.
So the first obvious pillar for your brain is what you eat. Food is extremely important for the brain for various reasons, but I'm just going to give you one. Is the brain needs a constant supply of fatty acids and the best one is omega-3s. And the simple fact that our body cannot produce it tells you everything, all the story. We cannot get it. We cannot produce it. We have to get it from our environment and from our food.
Is that something that we can supplement ourselves, or
yes,
is it?
Yes. Okay, you can supplement. I am not a fan of supplementation because I think you can find all you need through your food. Supplementation, the supplementation industry, it's a little bit of a big joke. They make a lot of money, obviously, on the fear that you are missing stuff. But there is obviously an area where supplementation is important, but it needs to be done correctly. It needs to be done with testing and knowing what you are lacking, and not just like, oh, I'm going to, pop pills into my mouth to get better, because you can do more actually damage than you do good if you don't do it through a proper protocol.
It's not regulated by the FDA either, because it's an ingestion rather than injection, which is crazy. I mean,
it's a billion industry, and you see it everywhere. You can't look at anything without any part on any blog online or anything without having ads for supplementation and stuff like this. Anyway, the second pillar is sleep. Sleep is extremely important for your brain. It's important for maintenance. It's important for memory consolidation. It's important for cleaning the junk. Basically, when you think, when you use your brain, it's like an engine. It takes things, it puts them together, and there is always things that are not used at the end. And during the night, during a very important cycle called REM, it's where your brain gets cleaned. So sleep is extremely important, especially quality sleep and long sleep. People think, oh, I'm going to strive on 5 hours sleep. If you have the chance to wear a smart device like a Neura Ring, or I don't want to say name, but things like this, you can track your sleep and track your REM sleep, which is the one where the cleaning and the memory consolidation happens. And your REM sleep should be around 2 hours to have an efficient cleaning of your brain, so that it can perform the day after at its peak.
So what are we talking about? I mean, hours of sleep, or are we talking about?
We're talking both. We're talking hours of sleep and quality of sleep, because you can stay 7 hours of sleep with really bad quality with 30% REM, then your sleep is not good enough to clean your brain, and therefore what happens to you, and you start getting this toxic plaque called beta amyloid plaque that is starting to build up into your brain, and you actually reduce your cognition, you reduce the blood flow, you add a lot of problems to but it happens very slowly, but it happens. And
how do you get the quality there? I mean, you can get the quantity by saying 7, 8 hours or whatever. But a question there, in the sleep, if you were to take any sleeping tablets or whatever, would that affect your REM or your RAM or whatever?
It will. It will. It's very sad, because actually those pills, you get dependent on them for various reasons. Again, I think he's going too much into details for today, but yes. No, what you need to do is sleep hygiene. You need to have a routine into your day, and the sleep routine starts when you wake up in the morning with light exposure. And it's one of the most important element of falling asleep correctly at night is having a raise in cortisol in the morning that is high enough and decrease during the day to counteract some others neurotransmitter in your body. But it's very important to get as much exposure as light as early as possible, as soon as you come out of bed. And most people don't do it, especially people in the north, or people living in apartments and stuff. They don't even go to close to the window in the morning. They go to their coffee machine inside their fridge, and they are exposed to non-natural light for the first hours of their day, and then they complain they can't fall asleep. it's the sleep hygiene starts when you wake up in the morning. Anyway, this is again, I can talk an hour about sleep. So let's talk about the third pillar. The third pillar is exercise. Exercise doesn't mean to go to the gym. Exercise means walking, being in nature, just having some physical activities. This is very important for people working in offices where they usually go into the train, then out of the train into the seats. They spend their day on their bum, and they actually get absolutely no exercise whatsoever. The brain is supplied with blood, obviously. When your heart rate gets higher because you exercise, you bring more nutrients, you bring more oxygen to your brain, and therefore you help him stay in shape, build new stuff, build new neurons, just perform better. This is why.
Could that also be over, like, I mean, you could exercise too much, because I've heard of that as well. People saying that they become an obsession, they exercise too much. Is that possible?
Yes, it's possible, but that's nothing to do with brain health. It has to do with the addiction to dopamine and to various other neurotransmitter, but not the health, the health of the brain itself. The fourth very important pillar for the brain is novelty. The brain is, some people call it lazy, but I don't think it's lazy. It's efficient. It will do anything it can to conserve energy. And this is how our whole body works like this, right? Our whole body is the only objective of our body. People think it's survival, but it's not. It's homeostasis. So it's balance. He wants to achieve balance, right? And our brain, his only objective is to make sure that it doesn't waste energy. So he will do something that is very simple. He will create loops where the information travels faster. And because it travels faster and is well ingrained into the brain, he uses less energy. Okay? Those are called neuronal pathways. And when you get into routines, you get to doing always the same thing, and basically you use less and less the capacity of your brain. If you want to increase creativity, if you want to increase the speed of decision making, you need to awaken your brain, and it only awakes in the new. Taking new skills, learning the piano, being an interest in a new language. Everything that takes you out of your routine, but also very simple things. You go to the office in the morning, instead of taking always the same route, change route. Just take another, it's going to take 25 seconds more, but take another street, and you will see new shops, you will awake to different things. And this awaken of the brain is very important to keep it at peak performance. And the last official pillar, let's call it like this, is social connections. We touched it with Matthew a little bit earlier. The brain is extremely sensitive to its environment. And we said before, being around negative people can actually physically damage your brain, because it will lower your neurogenesis and your neuroplasticity. And if you think about it, what is the worst thing we can do to a human being?
Reject.
Even worse than that. What do they use in prison when they're very extreme people? Yes. I think Debbie wants to say something. Isolation. Exactly. This is the worst that can happen to a human being. It's isolation. It takes only days, matter of maybe weeks, a week, 2 weeks, before your brain becomes absolutely crazy. So when you think about it, isolation, it's a tragedy. Old people that are isolated, people who have depression or anxiety, who stay at home and don't meet anyone, they're actually getting worse because they stay on their own. Social connections, we are social animals, and we need other people to live our best lives. We cannot be as isolated. So social connection are really, really important for the brain. There we go. Those are the 5 ones. And then if you want me to touch on the 6th one, which is nature, it's also, we could talk an hour about nature. We become so disconnected from nature as human beings that I'm just going to tell you two or three things about nature. First, it has an amazing smoothing effect on the brain. And you all know this. We all know it inside us. When you go to a Sunday afternoon walk in the forest, how do you feel? You feel amazing, absolutely amazing, because nature has this effect on our brain. There is many different variables, but this is one of the most important one, is as this smoothing effect. Then there is the vitamin D, okay? Vitamin D is created through our skin, with the sun through our skin. You know, this is also very important. You need to be outside for this to happen. If you're inside, it will never happen. VD is so, we know how important it is, right? We went through those 2-3 years of COVID, and one of the biggest and more efficient tool that we have in our toolbox to fight COVID is vitamin D.
I think that's the one place where an abbreviation is a little bit tricky, because VD means something else as well.
Wait, what do you mean?
Venereal disease.
Vitamin D. Let's call it vitamin D.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing that people don't think about it, but our brain is wired for complexity. And people don't think about this. But when we live in cities, so what's complexity? When you live in cities, what you see is straight roads, straight houses. Everything has faces, is straight, there's angles, but there's not much complexity. Go into a forest and look at the trees. Millions of leaves moving around, birds, sounds. The complexity in nature is 100-fold what you find inside a city. And our brains are wired for complexity, and they get slow when they are not challenged. So when you go actually in nature and you see all this complexity, your brain gets, you know, not only smooth, there is this smoothing effect and you feel relaxed, but it also increases its the way it works and the way it interacts with his environment. Those are the 5-6 pillars of brain health that I use in my holistic practice with my clients, and we talk about and we try to optimize each of those pillars one after the other.
You know, a question could be here, Thierry, if you agree with this. Perhaps we can put, you know, you've given us 5, definitely maybe 6 pillars. Throw it to the participants here and in the hour, and see. I mean, I don't know. Mariam, can you speak? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, great. Because sometimes Mariam can't speak, and so whatever reason. So, I mean, we're talking about nutrition, sleep, exercise, novelty. Is there anything that you're doing, like novelty, to stimulate the brain to actually get out of its comfort zone? Are you doing anything?
Yes, my podcasts are out of my comfort zone. At times, I do take a break from it, because sometimes I get into procrastination, maybe, or even, you know, if a pattern keeps repeating with the podcast, then I take a break. And then I prolong it for some time, and then I'm like, okay, now I need to get back into. But then I come up with ideas for something else. So yeah, that's how I keep myself a little creative, I could say.
Okay.
I love this, Miriam. If I may just make very quickly, I love what you just said, because you touched on something very, very important, which I didn't say. But in sleep, there's also pauses. And pauses during the day for your brain are really important. We are governed by more than that, but I would say 2 big rhythm. One is, everyone knows, is the circadian rhythm, is the rise and fall of the day, the sun, and how you sleep and how you live your day. But there's another one that not many people know about, is called ultradian rhythm. And there are cycles of 60 to 90 minutes where your brain works at top capacity, and then it drops. Naturally, it drops. And those are where people should actually use this drop to go out. 10 minutes, 50 minutes, go for a walk. It's where your brain, it needs this pause, and it will consolidate ideas. It will put things together. And this is why you said, oh, I go for a walk and suddenly I have an idea. Why have people their best idea when they're under the shower? You know, they tell you, I was under the shower. Because the shower is a pause. It's a pause for your brain. You go into the shower, you relax, you do something different. So your brain is doing its thing. And 5 minutes later, you have that amazing idea. By the way, write it down, because the brain has this terrible capacity of having ideas and forgetting about them. As quickly as they come up, they go away. So it's very important to get in the habit when you have an idea, write it down. We all done that. I'm the first one who doesn't write it down and then forget.
Interesting. It's connected to creativity as well, and that's what I find when I'm out walking. That's when I come up with either the best ideas or the maddest or stupidest ideas. But I get back to studies about, you talk about sitting on your arse for the whole day. That's Irish for bum, by the way. It's Irish English for bum. It's not Gaelic. But anyway, I was reading somewhere online that in an 8-hour shift, people are productive for around 4.25 hours.
During the day?
Yeah. So if you actually have people doing, say, repetitive work, and you give them more regular breaks without them taking the piss, they'll actually be more productive if you don't, crack the whip onto them. But also from the productivity point of view, when you get up and you go for a walk and maybe you just go a different way or whatever, you're going to feed into that creativity. And if you're problem solving, like in coding, you're going to be so much more productive. And so many people don't get that. Like if you're not at your desk, Jesus, where's your man gone? He's not working. Get him, or you're one, or whatever. So it's all kind of connected. But that's kind of something that popped up for me, I don't know, about a year or two ago, and it didn't surprise me. But I then started to get a little bit more interested in that mental health thing, but specifically in work. Because I visited a construction company, and they're big into mental health, which I was surprised about, because construction is normally male. Like I was in the construction industry for about 18 years. And it's very male dominated, and it's very heavily male dominated by the tough alpha male, which was me. But it isn't now, but at that time it was. So yeah, that's just my input. Sorry, I let you have the last word there before you have to jump off.
No. Thanks for sharing, Matthew. Thanks. I was going to ask a question over to Debbie. Hello, Evelyn. Hi. Say hello to Debbie. We were talking about social connections, isolation. I mentioned the word rejection. How does that fit in with how much work do you do on social connections for yourself, for your brain?
Thank you for the question. I am a social animal. I wither if I don't have external contacts. I need those. And I notice that I don't have enough when I notice that I'm being cranky. So I get cranky if I don't have enough interaction with other people. So I need those social connections, and I think it helps us to be more balanced in our communications with others, and it reflects who we are if we're with other people, together with other people, I think. And so yeah, big on social connections, big on that.
Are your connections sort of like, do you go looking for these connections? Are they just connections in general? Do you just go to a pub or a beer fest and just hang around with people? Or do you actually look for people specifically and say, no, I want to go there because I want to be with that kind of group? What do you do?
Okay, just because we have Oktoberfest here right now doesn't mean I'm running to Oktoberfest all the time. I actually don't even go to Oktoberfest all that often. I'm personally not someone who actually enjoys those. I used to go, but I don't anymore. I actually have various connections. So I have a close-knit, of course, family, and I have a group of girlfriends. We are, we're just like, we call ourselves, a Stammtisch in German. It's called a Stammtisch. So that means it's the core table. It's like this group of ladies that always get together. We go together to events. We go together on birthdays. As a matter of fact, tomorrow evening we're having a birthday dinner. One of the ladies is having a birthday and she's invited us to dinner. And we do this for every one of us. And we're 7. There's 7 of us in that group. And so that's that side. Then I have the connections from my previous work where I used to work. And I still have connections with the fellows that I worked with in the 1990s. So we still meet up, and they're more like the type that would go to an Oktoberfest.
There you are.
We meet up in a pizzeria a couple of times a year and just catch up and find out what's going on with everyone. And then I have the friends from the other company that I worked with, and it's people that I worked with closely together. One of them was my boss. And she came by just a couple of weeks ago, and we spent all day hanging out in the yard, just shooting the bull and having a good, conversation. And then of course I have my online connections where you're part of it and the mastermind is part of it. And oh yeah, and then I have the connections through my husband plays in a band. And so I have those connections that are from the band members and their family members. So I would say it's a little bit compartmentalized, but it's not like never the two shall meet, because I've had garden parties where I've invited everybody to come, and they all showed up. And it was like everybody was mixed, and everything from the mayor of our town to a fellow member of the board where I used to be on a board for a nonprofit. And it's just everything, everything. So
I think
yeah.
that's an interesting topic. We haven't got time for that, but I mean, just understanding the healthy connections and what are we looking for when we do connect with people, different groups, and what do we bring and what do we try and take away from these groups as well? That could be an interesting conversation. Are we still on time with you, Thierry? Or
Yeah, I can stay another 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Emmeline, we were talking about the 5 pillars or the 6 pillars of health, having a healthy brain, and you jumped in late, but we're talking about nutrition, sleep, etc. I think sleep is one of the ones that are really important to most people, because either you find it very difficult to sleep, or you sleep too much. You don't sleep very well, you're taking pills and so on. So what's your connection with sleep? How do you sleep well?
Yes, I sleep reasonably well, but I also need a lot of mind management, because if I perceive my day as negative, or I didn't reach my my goals of the day, or whatever was on my agenda, then my mind go in overthinking. And if I'm going in overthinking mode, then I wake up in the night and it's as if, okay, we are just moving on with the last talk we shut down with. So I need a lot of mind management, and what's helpful for me is to have a good sustainable schedule in a way, in a day, and keep keeping with it. Like if I say I am going to stop my workday at 5 o'clock, then keeping with it and not taking my thoughts about my work into the next time frame. That is very helpful because it forced me to relax. But that it also depends on if I successfully could reach what I wanted to reach that day. Otherwise, if something is really at miss, it's keeping on weighing in my mind. So what's helpful for me also is to ground myself in the present, like getting myself and talking to myself and saying, okay, it's not now the time to work. You won't forget how to do that thing, or you won't forget to do that thing, and you can go and relax now, and you will still be okay. I'm talking a little bit.
No. I think
Am I
you've given us,
clear?
no, absolutely. You've given us some food for thought. Debbie's got a question for you, Thierry. Maybe you can take that. It's in the chat.
Let me check.
Can you look at that?
I have no clue why the chat doesn't want to. Ah, here we go. It took a long time to open, but it's here.
It was really bad. It was really bad. And I have no connection why it was what happened. I had,
Can you read that, Debbie? Can you read that?
it says, I have a question about dreams. I had a horrid nightmare last night, which woke me up early and I couldn't go back to sleep. I needed a lot of self-coaching to get myself quiet again, and I don't know what could have triggered this nightmare. Is there anything that you can share on how the brain works overtime during sleep, and why does it come up with stupid stuff like that?
So you are absolutely right. At night, the brain never sleeps, and sometimes is even more active at night than during the day. We don't feel it because our body goes into full relaxation mode and repair itself, and the brain does a lot of function. But I can't answer your question because I'm not a dream specialist. I personally don't have much recognition of my dreams. What happened to you has happened to me a few times, but I can count them on one hand over the last 20, 30 years. So I'm not subject to this kind of. I think there are better people that could answer your question better than me. Yeah, I'm not specialist on dreams. I know that dreams are. I know the basic about dreams that like everyone knows. It's part of the memory consolidation, short-term and long-term memory consolidation. It's when the brain puts stuff together, but it also goes deeper into what you have stored during years, and sometimes it can get a bit crazy, I think. But don't take my word for it, because maybe Matthew has a better explanation than me. I'm not.
Yeah, I just put my neuroscience hat on there. No, my question was around the effectiveness of things like sleep stories, because I use the Calm app. I have sleep apnea, so I need a lot of help getting to sleep. But when you've gone through a lot of crap during the day and you want to clear your mind, I use the sleep stories to distract my mind from thinking about that. But when I'm asleep, it could drift back because I've no control over it. So, like, you can do as much as you can, as you said, but when you're asleep, your brain is kind of on its own. It's having its own internal battle as well. That's my scientific answer.
Wait, it's a kind of scientific answer. But it's true, is most people who suffer from sleep disorder and stuff, it takes a long time to retrain to sleep normally. It takes sleep hygiene. It takes also some people, meditation works really well for them. Being more grounded in the present, being more mindful, understanding their body, increasing their mind-body connection. There's lots of things you can do, but this is very bio-individual. What works for me will not work for you. What works for Debbie will not work for Gary. So it's a pain because you have to do the own work. You have to do your work, basically. You have to see what resonates with you. You have to try, and sometimes you need a coach to help you, to push you in different directions, or to just challenge you with what's possible, and find you what works for you. So sorry, there's no real answer there.
Is sleep connected also to nutrition, Thierry?
Yes, obviously. Obviously, too much of things, just take alcohol. We were discussing beer. Alcohol is a toxin, and it's an absolute destroyer of sleep. People who drink in the evening and then call me and say, I can't sleep, already the first thing you have to do is to stop drinking in the evening.
But is that contrary? Sometimes people say, have a drink and then you sleep better.
No, it's a myth. Alcohol will never relax you. Alcohol doesn't relax you. It's the problem. Sorry, because we're getting in totally different territory. It's the problem with alcohol, and is going to relax you. We are taught from a very young age to deal with our emotions with food and alcohol. And this is the subject of another call, because it has nothing to do here, but it's the basic problem of the society we're living in, is we lose connection with our emotions, we repress them, and we are also taught to, when you have a problem with an emotion, you eat or you drink. Let's have a drink after, oh, I'm stressed at work, let's go and get some beers. Oh, it's all the wrong thing to do, because alcohol will never distress you. Because it's a toxin, it stresses your body. It actually has the contrary effect on your body. What distresses you is being with friends and discussing and having a good time and laughing. That, yes, distress you. But what you have in your hand is doing the opposite effect of what you want it to do.
Yeah. I had another question. Actually.
Yes.
I write all my notes down here as we're going through it. Okay, was the word about self-talk? I think it was Emmeline spoke about self-talk. She tries to actually talk herself to sleep, or to actually convince herself that she can. She's overthinking it. So how is that helpful? Self-talk?
Yes, self-talk is helpful, except if you let's say, if you are in a negative overthinking, self-talk is not really helpful if you join the conversation. You actually need to talk yourself out of it, or just shut down your thoughts, or ground yourself, like I said, in the present. And I had once a weird experience, and I couldn't recreate it. I was very, very awake, and I was struggling to fall asleep, and I got fed up with it. And I said to myself, well, I don't know about you, but I'm going to sleep now.
Excellent.
So, and in the next 2 minutes, I fell asleep, and I don't know what happened with the past and the part that was so awake.
I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to sleep now. I like that.
Nice. It's brilliant. I love it. I love it, because you are talking to yourself in a very direct manner and say, I don't know about you, but now it's time to go to sleep. Does it work? Does it doesn't work? It depends. It depends on your state of mind, and as you said, what you've done before, and there's so many variables. But yeah, it's good. I think it's a good trick to try to do that. I'm really sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I need to go because I need to pick up my son from
Thank
school.
you, Thierry.
And I did a massive mistake. I thought this call was at 3 and not at 4. So I was like, oh, I have all the time in the world. But
no worries. No, listen, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. You're sharing your journey and so on.
If you have other questions, please feel free to send me a message or to connect with me or whatever. I'm always open and happy to discuss any subject. So
So
And
anyway,
thank you, Gary. It's been a pleasure.
we can all connect with Thierry Di Raffaele on LinkedIn. And so if you want to go deeper into this subject, we will. The recording is going to be on YouTube. And so Thierry, thank you. And
Gary, thank you.
next week we've got Lily Genovese coming.
Okay.
And she's going to be talking about balancing personal well-being with professional responsibilities. So talk about entrepreneurship. So if you're free, you have your time, it's, again, the time zones are a little bit confusing, but it is from 3 to 4 p.m. UTC.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you get really confused. So if you can, please come along. Okay.
You can invite me to that one as well, Gary.
Just a note on that, some countries will be changing this.
Yes.
Actually, many countries are changing this month. So
Yeah.
if your UTC is always at 3 o'clock, that means that it will be 4 o'clock for us soon, or 5 o'clock. I don't know, 6 o'clock or something. No, it's spring forward, fall back. So we will be falling back. So it won't be 5 o'clock for us anymore. It will be 4 o'clock for us.
All right,
it's at 3.
I need to
Okay,
shoot.
but I'm going to check. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on that. I'll put the right times in there.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, and hopefully you're taking something away. Okay.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Thierry, again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.